Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Hunter Burke about Sweet Magnolias. Season 2 recently dropped worldwide on Netflix. He, of course, plays Trotter. Welcome to the show, man. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Pete. Great to finally connect with you, buddy.
I was telling you before we started. I mean, this interview, I think, is like 2 years in the making. I think we were trying to get something done for season 1, but here we are, right?
Worth the wait, buddy. Worth the wait.
Isn't it an exciting moment, though, when you kind of, even before it drops, like, I want to know, like, when you find out about the release date, it's a cool moment, right? Like, even like before, when it's out, now it's a cool thing. You see everyone wants to know what happened with Trotter and that storyline. But what's going through your mind when season 2 finally gets a release date, Hunter? I'm curious about that.
The first thing is surprise. I mean, you never really know. I think they kind of keep that information closely guarded, as they should. There's a lot of strategy that goes into a decision like that. And I remember thinking when they dropped the date, it was interesting because it was so close to Valentine's Day. And I was like, oh, that's really good. That's a really good strategy by Netflix. Good job, guys. They might know what they're doing over there.
Just a little, right?
Just a little.
Blows my mind. Well, kind of to add to that Netflix thing, I mean, the global access of shows is just insane, right? Like,
yes,
the amount of countries that get to watch Sweet Magnolias, like it's phenomenal. There's not much more to say.
It's staggering. And I think like seeing their growth model over the years and how they're catering to different territories around the world by developing original content for those territories is kind of remarkable. And I think a really interesting strategy that, again, they might know what they're doing to develop, audiences all across the board. And then to have, like a small Southern character-driven show like ours do so well across the board was, surprising to me. I mean,
well, it's funny you said, like, it's funny that you answered the question about like what's going through your mind when it gets a release date. You said surprise, because is that also like a misconception about like acting and storytelling where like people think you know what's going on?
Oh yeah. Here's the secret, guys. Actors know nothing about anything. We may say we do, maybe even act like we do, but we don't. No, it's always, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but it's always a healthy exercise to, have your expectations set appropriately to where, you're never truly disappointed. You're never truly surprised in a, kind of a detrimental way. And so when you get these big numbers out of a season 2 or season 1, when that happened, I mean, it is just truly, truly surprising.
So it's interesting too. So was it March 2020 season 1 dropped?
Sounds right. April. Let's go April.
Beginning of the pandemic, basically.
Yep.
And we're now, a lot of those shows that they're saying, like the pandemic wonder shows, right? The ones that drop where everyone kind of watches Sweet Magnolias, Outer Banks, there's tons of them, right? Tiger King. No, but I'm just saying, like, doesn't it feel like it's 2 years ago? Like season 2 is out now. 2 years later, it feels like it's been like longer than that, right?
At least 6 years.
Right? Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Does it feel like that when you're talking to the cast and crew too? Like, wow, like it feels like this was a long time ago.
It does. It's kind of strange to think that it dropped. We shot it in 2019 and then it dropped in 2020, and then we had to wait a little bit to go back into production in 2021. Yeah. And then having season 2 drop in 2022 and having this reaction of people who have already watched season 2 and they're like, we want more, we're ready for more. It's like, oh God, we got to get back into this. And so ideally the numbers reflect a demand for the show to where we can return and do another season.
You played Trotter. I told you before we started, they did a lot of stuff with Trotter for season 2. I mean, Trotter had some stuff in season 1, but there's some good stuff. There's some good growth. There's a lot happening with Trotter. What's that kind of like, seeing that arc growth and continue when you're reading the script and kind of going in and kind of doing it basically for season 2, Hunter? I'm curious about that.
That's a great question, Peter. First, one of the things that was interesting to me with Cheryl and the writers of season 2 did, and they continue to do this is like a very interlocked, character-driven story. So specifically, Trotter is always going to factor into other people's story.
Of course.
And one of the things that I was...
He's like a floater almost, right?
Exactly, yeah. one of the things that I was continually amazed by is how they find ways to uh, have Trotter be of service to the other characters while at the same time bringing out this storyline. So in season two, uh, and Cheryl's kind of alluded to this. The idea that he's reaching out to the
Yeah.
other members, specifically the Magnolias, to get some advice on this big step in his life. I don't want to, spoiler free, but if you haven't seen season two, there's a big step that Trotter and his husband Ashley are taking, and it so specifically fits with the characters in Serenity that it's always about what is the story, how are the characters serving that, and so Cheryl and the writers this season really did a great job of developing based on need and function, and that's from my understanding that was an easy thing to play and continues to be.
Ashley, played by the great Gary Weeks, who's a friend of the show. Just quick shout out there.
Shout out Gary, love that guy.
No, it's so here's the deal too, right? Season 1 of Sweet Magnolias drops with a cliffhanger and has everyone waiting for stuff, right? Season 2 finally drops. Yes, we finally get a season 200. Let's go. Guess what? We gotta wait again.
It's true. Had to wait.
It's back-to-back cliffhangers, and it's everyone is just feeding the Reddit theories just left, right, and center. Do you know how they're gonna, like, again, going back to the whole we know nothing, we show up, but like, do you know about storylines? Like, do you know it's gonna go like that? Like,
I don't. I could guess, and based on there's a couple of articles out there that Cheryl has given interviews about the process and kind of where she intends to go. Should we get a season 3, and also kind of the canon that are Cheryl Woods' books that the series is originally based on. I think at this point they're starting to diverge even more, but there's still, I think, some source material that they're pulling from so they can kind of satisfy the adaptation and also the people that love the books. So I have an idea, but I think that's one of the great things is when should we get this season 3, the ability to kind of go into it surprised, but now we have all of this knowledge about the characters. And speaking from the experience of season 2, not knowing what was going to happen and just being completely shocked during the read-throughs because we had these Zoom read-throughs with all the cast. That was an awesome experience because we got a lot of the twists and turns like in this virtual room with all of the cast there, and so it was a lot of fun to share that with everybody.
I feel like adaptations are a beast because there's kind of the obvious, pressure that I feel like will never not be there because you're putting something on screen that was like a book that people love for many years. So I think the stress and the pressure is going to be there regardless. But I do think, and I want you to this is more of kind of a statement that I want you to kind of opinion that I want you to respond to rather than a question. But I do think the excitement of being able to bring something to screen that was a book kind of overtakes the stress and pressure a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I think one of the most interesting things about adaptation, specifically from books to TV, is it almost pays to kind of diverge a little bit from the source material so that the two become supplemental. You can have one in the love of the books or in the love of the show, and then have the other to show you another dimension of how it was. I mean, I don't know. I think it was last year, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, the novel that accompanied the book. And it was such a great supplement to the movie. And they kind of fed into each other in that way that you can kind of continue the fandom in that way. And I like it. I like that, Netflix even has this thing where they do the book club and they kind of get around and they discuss the books that they've adapted to their streaming platform.
I just feel, and I feel like you look at like the comic book culture boom too with the fact that every comic book, again, in the superhero kind of worlds, there's so many characters that even like show up for like one issue for like 2 seconds on one page, and it's like they're making a whole movie about that person. Like, I just feel like the world of adaptations is just like a crazy world that I feel like they should write. Like, I want to see documentaries about like how they come up with like what they're gonna do. They go through like a bunch of like Superman comics and just find little things in the adaptation to adapt, basically. Which is crazy. Hunter Burke is a storyteller. That's what you do, man. That's what I do. I interview storytellers. What excites you about storytelling specifically?
I love the communal aspect of it. I love, I was raised by parents that love to tell stories, and in my mind it always comes down to this idea of like the campfire story. Like to me, that's the most romantic version, as you're sitting around in the woods in the fire and it's cold and you've got this storyteller. It's typically a scary story, but that idea of shared lessons and experiences to where you're all feeling the dips of the highs and the lows. And one of my favorite memories is sitting in the theater for Jurassic Park and feeling the entire theater like reeling and at the emergence of the T-Rex. It just, that kind of feeling I feel like I'm always chasing, whether it's in writing or producing or acting. It's such a powerful touchstone for me to return to, that when times get tough, it's always nice to be like, oh yeah, this is why we do it, to share it with everybody.
Man, I remember seeing the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when I was really young, for my birthday party. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember like certain things happening, but the whole like theater would at the same time go like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a magical feeling, man. It really is.
Like we're a bunch of kids at a birthday party. We're all at the same time, Hunter, going, whoa.
Yeah.
And I feel like
nothing beats it, man.
But I feel like being on the other side of that, like with Sweet Magnolias, right? There's a lot of moments of Trotter that get people going like, oh, or like, ooh, or like, e. Like being on the other side of that, you like the different options,
especially
right?
when I mess up my lines. I go, ooh.
Being on the other side of that, seeing that happens with your character and that you were a part of that and you helped create that is a pretty cool feeling, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to the whole creative team coming together to make those moments work. Because, as good as I can be and say my lines and hit my marks and do all the things, I'm only as good as the people that are, the hair and makeup, the director, the wardrobe, everybody who's putting the illusion together.
Shout out to the crew, right? We got to
shout out to the crew. Yeah. Jeez. Otherwise, we'd be saying our lines in a darkened room against the wall. And no, it's truly remarkable. And especially like during these times when we have to go through these rigorous testing for COVID and putting together productions for an impossible feat to try to shoot during the pandemic. And they really step up and they're put through arduous conditions and got nothing but love.
100%. Yeah. Hunter, I wanted to thank you for coming on Popternative Chat about Sweet Magnolias. This was awesome. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Likewise, Peter. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Season 2 of Sweet Magnolias is out now, right? Worldwide, so they can check it out if they haven't already. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace.
MySpace. Shut up.
Just can't let it go, right? No.
MySpace is still like a site, I'm pretty sure. Like
it should be. It should be like an archive.
At one point it was. I don't know. I think it's completely out now. But at one point, like 2017, I was like Googling it's a like you can go on it.
I feel like that's the next thing, is like some show set in the early 2000s is going to put up that fake MySpace.
MySpace was like the reason, like I discovered so many bands and music through MySpace. Like you had that song you put as your MySpace song.
That's right. And you could decorate the page with your banner. Oh my gosh.
You had people that didn't know what they wanted and they changed their layout every time. And then like a new we kind of became like computer programmers or graphic designers, because you have to copy paste the whole like there was like a whole thing you had to like copy paste like a code. I don't know.
That's right. It made a lot of dumb people feel really smart, myself included, because I was like, I can do code now.
Oh man. No. Do they have? I'm sure there's like a documentary about MySpace somewhere. Or someone needs to make
Netflix, get on it.
Well, no, that was a world, man. That was like
it's funny. We're waxing poetic about the old days of social media.
Holy smokes, MySpace. That's a throwback. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, until next time, this is Hunter Burke and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.